Hi, my name is Betsy Bradley, and I'm the Faculty Director of the Global Health Leadership Institute at Yale. Today I'm joined by David Berg, who is a clinical professor in psychiatry at the Yale School of Medicine and an organizational psychologist. And today we're here to talk about leadership. You know, everybody, and David, you know, everybody is studying leadership. Everybody talks about it. So it's one of the fundamental things. If you've got a new job, you need to learn how to be a leader and have those leadership skills. So I wanted to start us with, what do you think are the most common misunderstandings about leadership?
I'd say there's probably three. So the first one is that leadership is a trait of a person, that one is either born with or that one has as a characteristic of self from growing up, etc. And I don't think it's actually a trait. I don't think it's something that inheres in a person. I think, as we'll talk about, I'm sure, I think it's a function in an organization or a social setting. So one misunderstanding is that people have it or can be given it. It's a trait. The second thing I would say is that only one person does it. So when we talk about leadership, we tend to use words like leaders that suggest that leadership is done by one person. I think that's the second thing. I don't believe it's ever done in a social system by one person. And the third thing I would say is that there's only one way to do it. There's just too much diversity of people in leadership roles in the way in which people in those roles are successful in different kinds of settings and different kinds of organizations to believe that there's only one right way to do leadership. And yet we tend to perpetuate the belief by books and theories that there's one way to do it right. Even contingency theories will say, under these circumstances, do it one particular way. I think it's overemphasized, the one-wayness.
Do you mind just talking a little bit about what do you mean when you say contingency theory?
So there are lots of different phases in the evolution of leadership theory, and one of those it was called contingency theory, which said that the behavior or action of someone in a leadership role depends on the circumstances of the task or the job being done, the circumstances of the people being worked with, those kinds of things.
So I want to ask you about business schools and management schools, because I think they grew out of thinking there was one way. You just need to take these courses and you will be a leader, you'll be successful. And I'm wondering, that still seems to be around. And what do you think of that? And how do you think we ought to be thinking about developing the skill of somebody to lead well?
So I think it's right. I think most education in the area of leadership is based on the assumption that leadership is something in a person that you can develop or teach or train. And while I don't think that's 100% wrong, I think what it misses is the fact that leadership, I believe, is fundamentally a relational concept. That is, it comes into being when there's a relationship. Without a relationship, there is no leadership. So you, as faculty director of things, when you're at home sitting in your dining room by yourself, you are not a leader. You can't be. And if you're thinking of yourself as a leader, you're thinking of yourself in one or more different relational contexts, because that's what creates leadership. It is a function for a social system, the smallest social system being two people, but usually it's about a faculty group or about an organization. And the leadership function comes into being when one or more different kinds of relationships exist. So I would say we're going to be more successful at teaching people in various professional schools, business schools being one, about leadership, to the extent that we begin to focus as much on the kinds of relationship work that needs to be done to effectively move an organization towards its task or its goal than just focusing on individual skills and traits.
So I have heard you say leadership is a role, and then you just said it's really a relational concept. Can you sort of describe how those two sort of statements of what leadership is fit together?
So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
When I sometimes work with groups of executives or students, and I'm being slightly polemical, and I say, so you've heard the phrase, lead, follower, get out of the way.
Yeah.
And I say, so that suggests to you that you either lead or you follow, or in the worst case, you make yourself scarce. And I say, okay, don't be shy or self-deprecating. I need you to choose which one of those you are, whether you're a leader or a follower. And everybody in the room gets very nervous, and they get sort of squeamish, and they don't want to make that choice. And so they say both. Mm-hmm. And I say, well, how can you be both? We just said you're either a leader or a follower. And then I say to them, okay, I won't make you choose. Let's say I asked you how many people in this room are in leadership roles. Mm. And everybody's hand goes up. And then I say, how many of you are in followership roles? And everybody's hand goes up. And then we begin to see that leadership and followership are roles, not traits or characteristics of a person, because the vast majority of people, I would say actually 100% of people who work in organizations are in both roles. So role, again, means a set of activities expected of somebody who inhabits a certain place in an organization. I would say leadership is a role. You have it in relationship to some people, and in relationship to other people, you are in a followership role in relationship to those people up the hierarchy.